Good morning, folks. I'm Levi with NC Pressure Washing. It's about 5 a.m. and we're going to get into it. I'm going to discuss today about downstream injectors. This will greatly benefit you. It will improve your efficiency, your performance, and just overall knowledge about chemical injectors and downstreaming. We'll also touch on some upstreaming as well. All right. So how did we get here? All of our stock injectors, right? Our regular general pump hydro, sud suckers, all those were really developed for 4 gallon per minute machines. And instead of developing chemical injectors that actually worked for 6 GPM, for 8 GPM, for a 10 GPM machine, all we did was change these interior nozzles, right, to make them work. But it never changed the fixed rate of the chemical injector. Ladies and gentlemen, a basic chemical injector that we use is a fixed rate. A fixed rate means a certain amount only gets drawn through. No matter what size you change the interior nozzle to, a fixed rate gets drawn through. Yes, it does slightly, very, very minutely change that rate because of a certain nozzle, right? And I'll go into more details about it. But it does not really change your overall amount that gets sucked in. And that's where modified injectors come into play. What did this lead to? Right now, I'm just giving you a little history of downstream injectors because downstream injection is the number one thing used in our industry. It really is when it comes to soft washing. Because of the lack of understanding of how chemical injectors really work, their fixed rates, and how to improve the performance, it led us to where we are at today in the industry, where there was a huge shift into these upstreaming systems, right? It was a shift and everyone started trying to use upstreaming systems for, once they started getting 8 GPM, 10 GPM machines, they started realizing, man, I cannot clean as good like when I downstream my 4 GPM. When they had their 4 GPM machine, they could go out there and handle a lot of projects before they needed to use any type of upstreaming system. In all actuality, someone with a 4 GPM machine before really only needed an upstreaming system to get a 1-to-1 to go ahead and clean roofs. That was it. But as people grew in gallons per minute, as people got 8 GPM machines, 10 GPM machines, and they tried to downstream, they slowly started realizing, man, I can't do those things that I used to with a 4 GPM. So what did they start reverting to? They started reverting to putting nozzle sizes of like a 1.8 into their chemical injector, which severely cut their flow. So it was like, why even have an 8 GPM if you're going to put a 1.8 injector nozzle in there and cut your flow all the way down to 6 gallons per minute? Okay? Or in some cases, even lower. Or they have to throttle down their machine a whole lot in order to get those percentages. So it led them to like, you know what, it's easier. I'm just going to shift over to an upstreaming system, right? But with the upstreaming system, there's major flaws when it comes to chemical being introduced to the line. With an upstreaming system, you are trying to balance the pull of both water and your chemical. When you try to balance those suction forces, you will never, ever have a consistent draw from both of those lines. One line will always be dominant. It will always be dominant, and it will try to suck more. Then it led to what? The introduction of blend manifolds. The whole theory of blend manifolds, of adjusting one knob, whether it's your chemical or your water, and trying to balance these systems out. Even with that, it never remains consistent, because as fluid levels change within your tank, atmospheric pressure, it changes the suction values of your entire system. And that's why upstreaming systems will never be accurate. And what makes it even harder is as you try to get a lower draw from one, because say you want a 1% or a 2%, right? For standard house washes, because that's what we predominantly use. Every exterior surface, vertical surface, we really can clean it between up to about 2% max. That's all you need. Okay? Max. And you will take care of everything. Majority of the time for maintenance house washes is houses that get washed every year on a normal schedule. You really only need a 0.5% of chemical to be applied to that home. 0.5, right? Very, very little. An upstreaming system cannot deliver that performance. It cannot deliver that performance. Once you try to get that low, it either stops drawing or you start cavitation. Majority of time with upstreaming systems, your lowest that you're going to be able to really achieve is around a 2% range. And as it's at that 2% range where you try to manipulate the metering valves, it's swinging. There's a pendulum swing left to right as those fluid levels change in your tank. It's never consistent. Okay? And that's the true beauty of downstreaming. From the 2% and lower range, downstreaming is king. It is hands down the best method to introduce chemical into a system. And like I said from the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over that today. We will go over in depth pretty much everything you need to know to get your downstreaming performance that you need and you require. Okay? What you will find at the end of this, and once you actually apply the things I show you, right, is that upstreaming systems are going to become a paperweight and will be really only needed for certain situations, such as dirty roofs, when you need that 1-to-1 ratio, okay? Or you're doing a very large commercial type of cleaning, because upstreaming will save you in gas and so forth. I'll break down all these things. But from today on, you will get some in-depth training and hopefully valuable knowledge that you can retain for the rest of your life and share it with fellow washers as they come and go from this industry. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into some basic things. I don't have another chemical injector around here. Let me see. Do I? We're all outside. Whatever. All right. So what you see here before you is a 1553 chemical injector. All right. I'm going to turn this camera around so we can get a more closer look at what we really want to talk about instead of me just flapping my gums right here.